So today I just want to try to be helpful and give a quick, easy look at how the Blue Badge scheme works, why it matters, and whether you use a badge yourself or support someone who does, or simply want to understand the rules around the Blue Badge. This session will hopefully give you the essentials and help make the scheme work better for everyone. Oh, we have someone who can't see the presentation. Possibly.
Can everybody else see the presentation, or is it just Linda? Yeah, everybody else. Linda, hopefully you'll be able to just hear and get a feel for it. I am going to send the presentation out to everybody that's joined us anyway. There's also going to be a recording that's going to go onto the internet. So we just seem to have a couple of odd people that are struggling to see it. But the majority can see it. So if you carry on, Daniel, I think what you're saying is going to help anyway.
Right, thank you. Today, this is going to be the journey we're going to follow. So we'll start with what the Blue Badge scheme is, look how to use a badge correctly. We'll talk about how to prevent misuse, what enforcement involves from a civil enforcement officer's point of view, and finally, how we can all help support the Blue Badge community. And it's about making the scheme fair and accessible for all and for the people who really need it. So why the scheme exists? There's 4 key pillars of the Blue Badge scheme. So firstly, it provides essential parking access for disabled people. It supports independence, dignity and mobility, which obviously helps people maintain control over their day-to-day routines. Thirdly, it reduces physical strain and distances travelled, which can make a huge difference for many Blue Badge holders. And the 4th pillar helps people stay connected with their community, whether that's shopping, socialising or accessing services. So it clearly shows that the Blue Badge scheme is far more than just parking. It's about inclusion, independence and community. So Blue Badges are there to support people who face challenges getting around. This includes people with severe mobility issues, those who can't walk long distances, and people with hidden disabilities such as severe anxiety, autism, chronic fatigue, or neurological conditions. They also support anyone who needs quick access to essential services because of their conditions, as well as people who are registered blind. The aim is simple with the Blue Badge scheme. It's to make sure that people who need extra help with mobility can park closer to where they need to be. Key responsibilities of the Blue Badge. And I do apologise because this slide does have a lot of text. I've tried to work with what I've got, but there is quite a lot of text to cover. So we'll try and run through this slowly. So the Blue Badge should only be displayed when the Blue Badge holder is travelling in the vehicle or when you're picking them up or dropping them off and need to park close by. The badge must be clearly visible from the outside of the vehicle with the front facing up so the hologram can be seen. If you're parking on yellow lines or in a time-limited disabled bay, make sure the time clock is shown and set to your arrival time. And also we must ensure that local restrictions and time limits are followed. And following these steps will help to make the scheme work smoothly and fairly for everyone. I will go through examples of where to use the badge and how to use the badge in a more photo style. And here we have a lovely photo provided by SJ that shows how to display a badge. So you want the front side facing up with a hologram, and this will show the date of expiry. And it will also show the date of issue. So when a Blue Badge is issued, it'll be in this very small area. then it'll have an expiry date. The advice given from the Blue Badge team in Cornwall Council is to apply up to 8 weeks prior to the date of expiry. And we have the hologram here. You have the issuing county council here. And to the left, we have the time clock, which you can set to the closest 15 minutes of your arrival. So moving forward, I'd like to give a quick overview with example photos to help show where you can use the Blue Badge. Key thing to remember is it gives extra flexibility to help badge holders park closer to the places they need to go. So go slowly through the photos, and more than happy at the end to go through questions, or if anyone has questions during the presentation. So to begin, we'll look at limited weight bays. So we have a number of examples of photos there. Limited weight bays, for example, on the top right. This one is 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So this weight bay is in effect from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can park there for 2 hours. And after those 2 hours, you're not permitted to return for 4 hours. So that's what the sign is telling us. With a blue badge in Cornwall, if you display your blue badge with a hologram correctly showing, you're entitled to stay in that limited weight bay as long as you require. Outside of Cornwall, you will have to check with each local authority what their rules are in regard to blue badges and limited weight bays. I don't have an example, unfortunately, to show for Cornwall, but there are limited weight bays that will state a 30-minute maximum stay with no blue badge exemption, or blue badge holders 3 hours maximum stay. So these are a selection of times that could be seen throughout my local patrol. But if you park in a limited weight bay, you can display your blue badge and you can stay as long as you need whilst you're in Cornwall. Yellow lines. We have single yellow lines and we have double yellow lines. Single yellow lines indicate to the driver that the restriction is not in force 365 days a year. So there will be an accompanying sign to tell the driver how long they can park, when they can park on the single yellow lines. So with the double yellow lines and the single yellow lines, if you display your blue badge with your time clock set to your arrival, you can park for a maximum of 3 hours. But only if there are no yellow curb markings, which indicate loading bans, which we will go through. There are no signs stating loading restrictions. Your blue badge is clearly displayed and your parking clock is set to the time of your arrival. Resident parking zones. You can sometimes park in a resident parking zone with a blue badge, but there's no single national rule. So you will have to check your local council's policy. In Cornwall, blue badge holders can park for a maximum of 3 hours in a resident parking only zone, as long as their blue badge is clearly displayed and your parking clock is set to the time you arrived. There are many resident permit zones in Truro, there's one in Newquay on Enners Road. If you are a resident within a zone, you can contact Cornwall Council to get a reduced rate parking permit. I can't zoom in on the photo for that one, but it does say resident permit holders only. Within Cornwall, you can display your blue badge with the time clock and you're permitted to stay for 3 hours. Outside of Cornwall, you will have to check with local authorities. Disabled badge holders bays. These bays are on-street spaces marked and signed specifically for vehicles displaying a valid blue badge. The purpose of these is to provide safe, close access with enough room to get in and out of the vehicle. Most councils allow unlimited parking in these bays because they are designed for disabled users. However, councils can set local rules and the sign at the bay is the final authority. So we have a selection of examples here. So from the top one, and I zoom in my eyes, the top one is a disabled badge holders only bay. So you do have to display your blue badge with a hologram facing. This is 3 hours, maximum stay, no return within 1 hour. So because it has a time set on that sign, you would have to set your time clock for your time of arrival, and you would be permitted to stay for up to 3 hours, and then you would not be allowed to return for 1 hour. The bottom left sign is the most common sign you'll see adjacent to disabled badge holder bays. And this has no time limit. It's in effect 24/7, and only blue badge holders are permitted to park in that bay with their badge being displayed with hologram facing. The bottom right bay is a Monday to Saturday bay, and it's timed from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So these are information on when the bay is in effect. So from Monday to Saturday, this is a disabled badge holders only bay between the hours of 9 and 5 p.m. So you'd be permitted to park and have your blue badge between 9 and 5 for unlimited time. Outside of those hours, it'd be a public access bay that any road user would be able to use. Now I'd like to move forward on areas that we are unable to use our blue badge. And myself personally, I do patrol other areas, but Newquay's my main focus. So I do interact and speak with many road users, including blue badge holders, on a daily basis. And I always give advice to people that please approach us and ask questions. We're here to help and give advice. And believe it or not, we would always try and engage and educate a road user rather than issuing a penalty charge notice. And by speaking to people across the board, you come to realise that a lot of the signing and the lines are not clearly understood by all road users. So I'm hoping this next selection of slides will help. So the big one first is the loading or unloading restrictions. So these are called curb blips. We have double yellow lines with double curb markings. So this means that the double yellow lines are in effect 24/7, 365 days a year, and the no loading restrictions are in effect 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So this applies to all vehicles, including blue badge holders. So there's no loading or unloading at any time. And because blue badge parking on yellow lines is only allowed where loading is not prohibited, these markings make the locations completely off limits for all road users, including blue badge holders.
Daniel, we sometimes just see one curb marking there. What does that actually mean?
So with the single curb marking, it's the same idea as the single yellow line. So it's a no loading or unloading restriction. However, it will have an accompanying sign to inform the road user when that is in effect, be it months of the year, days of the week, and times. So if you see a single curb blip, there should be an accompanying sign. And if you're not within the restricted times, you are permitted to park there. They are rarer. The double curb markings is the most common. And it's an area where we have a lot of engagement with the public in our day-to-day role, trying to inform people on this specific contravention.
I know, just talking from my personal experience, my mum's got a blue badge, and it was one of the things that she wasn't aware of when she got the booklet and the information and was parking where there were double curb markings. So, you know, it is one that's quite easy to miss and not always people are aware of.
Thank you. Bus stops and taxi ranks. You cannot park in bus stops or taxi ranks with a blue badge. These locations remain prohibited at all times because they are reserved for specific essential transport functions. So my guidance is that the badge does not override restrictions in places where stopping would interfere with public transport or licensed taxi operations. And we have an example of the signs and the marked bus bays and the marked taxi bays. Loading bays, this would be second on my list of areas on the road where I encounter blue badge holders who fail to understand that it's not possible to use a loading bay to park. And they would set their clock for 3 hours and their blue badge would all be displayed correctly. But unfortunately, the blue badge scheme does not operate in loading bays. These are reserved for vehicles that are actively loading or unloading, and blue badge concessions do not automatically apply. I did have a question last week from a member of the public, and they asked if they pulled into a loading bay and stopped their vehicle and removed the wheelchair from the vehicle, would that be permitted? And I said that is classed as loading or unloading, because you are unloading the equipment for your passenger or for the driver, and then you would have to move the vehicle afterwards. But you may stop in a loading bay to unload equipment such as a wheelchair. Clearways, you cannot park on a clearway with a blue badge at any time. Clearways and another of the locations where blue badge concessions do not apply. The bottom left clearway sign will be the most common one that you encounter in your day-to-day. Urban clearways within towns and cities, I don't have any specifically in my patrolling in Newquay. And for example, if you go to London, and I believe Bristol is introducing red routes, you have red route clearways as well. So just to be mindful, clearway signs, they're not like double yellow lines. There won't be traditionally markings. There won't necessarily be markings on the road. There'll be signs at the start and finish of the clearway to inform you that it started and ended. Typically around in Cornwall, you'll see this on A roads, exiting towns and villages, but you're not permitted to stop and use your blue badge on a clearway. Pedestrian crossings with the accompanying white zigzags, you're unable to use your blue badge to stop and park on the zigzags adjacent to the pedestrian crossings. Double white centre lines and broken centre white lines. You cannot park or stop alongside these lines with your blue badge. These don't override the restrictions. And generally the double white lines are in effect where visibility is poor or the road layout is hazardous, so stopping is prohibited for all vehicles. Temporary parking restrictions. These have a number of uses. You may see these used by Cormac, you may see them used by your local utility companies. They may be in effect for local community events. However, when you see this icon here, it's no waiting at any time, and the blue badge doesn't override this restriction. So unfortunately, you wouldn't be permitted to stop and use your blue badge in areas where this signage is in place. School keep clear markings. So we have the yellow zigzags outside the schools, and you'll have an accompanying sign that will say no stopping on the zigzag markings. This applies to all road users, including a blue badge holder. So you would be unable to stop and use your blue badge outside the school to collect or pick up a child.
And I think it's good to be clear on this one. Those sort of school keep clear markings, you can't even stop to let a child out of the vehicle. It literally is, that is the area that for their safety, you do not stop a vehicle on, even just to let somebody in or out.
Yes, yeah, there's a number of areas around the school that may have double yellow lines, but you would be permitted to stop your vehicle on the double yellow lines and display your blue badge if it's safe to do so to collect a child You would have to display the time clock because you're on the double yellow line, so it's a maximum stay of 3 hours. But on my regular weekly school patrols, I encounter many road users that have a valid blue badge and a time clock displayed outside schools on double yellow lines. So that is totally permitted. The yellow zigzags, unfortunately, for all road users, you're not permitted to stop, and it is actually an instant penalty charge notice. So I spoke and used some photos of a number of examples of areas that we can use our blue badge and areas that we cannot. This next topic is about parking responsibly and how we can all help our community and be respectful to each other and avoid parking in places that could make things unsafe or difficult for others. Sometimes a car can unintentionally block visibility or access, which can be a real challenge for pedestrians, wheelchair users, or other drivers. So it's not about catching people out, it's about awareness. So the scheme works as it should, and it continues to support the people who rely on it most. So this will cover a number of areas just to bear in mind, and this is today we're talking to blue badge holders, but this will apply to all members of the public. So we've got consider your safety where you're parking near schools, bus stops, bends or hilltops. Avoid parking opposite or within 10 metres of a junction. Ensure access is maintained on narrow roads, which we all encounter on a daily basis in Cornwall. Avoid blocking traffic, driveways or entrances. Keep emergency access points accessible. So this is an area that we do encounter from all road users around hospitals and GP surgeries. I fully understand that we have antibiotics, prescriptions that are very imperative to collect. We have very time-sensitive appointments. We have people that are generally needing urgent care, but we still have to try and be responsible where we park around these sites. Lowered curbs or raised crossings. We do have areas, for example, if you ever visit Kingsley Village, there's a number of drop curbs with tactile pavement, and a number of road users do park across that, which makes it difficult for wheelchair users and also sight impaired users and for everyone to cross the road when we're parking across those drop curbs. Keep pavements clear unless signs allow it. And that's a general overview on some areas that all of us can try to improve where we park and where we use our vehicles to be responsible. Cornwall Council car parks, as SJ spoke about at the beginning, there are rules for private land areas and for private car parks and for hospitals and for supermarkets and such, but they're all individual private companies, so you will have to check the signage. With Cornwall Council car parks, blue badge holders must pay the normal parking fee unless the vehicle is registered under Cornwall Council's exemption scheme or the vehicle is especially adapted for a disabled person. There will be links at the end of the presentation, but the Cornwall Council website clearly breaks down who qualifies for the exemption scheme, and it also gives you clear examples with photos on what adaptions are classed. Moving through, you must display a valid blue badge with the clock when you arrive, and blue badge holders paying a parking fee automatically get 1 hour of free parking. For example, if you display a blue badge and pay for 2 hours, you can park for 3 hours. This does give you added time to return to your vehicle and have a more relaxing time when you're enjoying these beautiful Cornish towns and villages. A common question is, can I use my blue badge in the car park if all the blue badge bays are full? And yes, of course you are. I recognise it's not the most helpful, But with the blue badge spaces do give you more space around your vehicle, which obviously is what you're aiming for. But you are permitted to use any parking space in the Cornwall Council car park, and you will receive the extra hours parking when displaying your blue badge and time clock and your valid pay and display tickets or your just park session.
Quick question that's come in, Daniel. Can you park opposite a bike lane? For example, I've seen people parked at the bottom of Crantock Street, Newquay, with their blue badge. Not sure if that's allowed or not.
On the bicycle lane.
Opposite a bike lane.
So under the current legislation that's given to civil enforcement officers, I'm not able to issue a penalty charge notice, for example, for causing obstruction of the road or parking across a cycle lane currently, as the cycle lane has to have a very specific traffic regulation order for it to be, it has a specific contravention code for any road user to park across a cycle lane. And the Crantock Street cycle lane is not on that TRO. However, Cormac have recently painted double yellow lines adjacent to the vast majority of the parallel to the cycle lane on Crantock Street. So if the blue badge is being displayed correctly with the time clock, currently we're not able to enforce on that restriction. So whilst I wouldn't call it the most sensible place to park, it's currently not an area that I can enforce.
Thanks, Daniel.
This is just following from the slide previously at the start of the presentation, just a little overview on who can use the blue badge. So the blue badge is issued to a person. It's not issued to a vehicle. So the blue badge can be transferred amongst multiple vehicles. It can be used when the badge holder is driving the vehicle themselves or traveling as a passenger or to be collected. So the blue badge if the blue badge was issued to me, I could be in town having a lovely coffee over Fistral Beach. You could drive your vehicle and you would have my blue badge present with you, and you could park outside the coffee shop on the double yellows with the blue badge displayed with the time clock, hologram facing up, and I could come out of the coffee shop, travel a short distance to the vehicle, and we could drive away. So that would be the usage of someone else using my blue badge. And the badge holder must only be displayed when the badge holder is present or directly involved in the journey. So a short example would be, I'm the blue badge holder and I'm at home, and you've taken your car and my blue badge to go collect my prescription. I understand that's a helpful act, but that's not the correct usage of the blue badge, because I've not left my property and the blue badge is not designed for errands to be run on behalf of the blue badge holder. With any scheme as widely used as the blue badge program, there are times when badges are used incorrectly. Sometimes it's intentional, but often it's simply due to confusion about the rules. From my direct experience with my colleagues, it's like 99% of misuse is people who didn't understand the rules and have made a genuine mistake or they were unsure. So I wouldn't like to frame it as I'm targeting blue badge holders and how they're being misused. Because in my direct experience in my community, is people give their blue badge to someone else to use and they don't understand the rules, which is totally reasonable, because you may have many members of your family that use the blue badge for you and to pick you up, take you out for the day. And you can't expect everyone in your connected friendship group to understand all the rules. So the common misuse experience that we have is using a blue badge when the badge holder is not present, sharing, lending or borrowing a blue badge, using a blue badge that is expired or damaged, parking in places where blue badge concessions don't apply, creating, altering or copying a blue badge, and finally using a blue badge after the badge holder has passed away. I'd like to just touch briefly on what happens when things are not right. It's not about scaring anyone, it's just trying to raise awareness so everyone understands the consequences and why they exist. So you may receive a PCN, a penalty charge notice. Appeals can be made if you receive a penalty charge notice. On the reverse of the penalty charge notice, there is an appeals process. In Cornwall, if you receive a penalty charge notice, there will be a fixed rate. So, for example, on double yellow lines on the street, it's a £70 penalty charge notice. If it's paid within 14 days, it's reduced to £35. However, in Cornwall, if you decide to appeal the ticket, due process will be followed by the Cornwall Council Independent Appeals Team. And if they reach a decision and determine that you do have to pay the penalty charge and it is upheld, you do get the 14 days at the reduced rate once that decision's been made. Outside of Cornwall, you have to check with some local authorities for their rules, because some other local authorities, if you appeal the ticket, you lose the right to the reduced rate. But I just want to assure you, in Cornwall, you still get the reduced rate of 14 days after the appeal process is complete. You may be asked by one of myself or my colleagues, a civil enforcement officer, to show your blue badge for inspection to ensure it's valid and being used for the person intended. You may be asked by a police officer, and you may be asked by a traffic warden. There are certain jurisdictions in the UK that still have a traffic warden. So you may see us, you may be sat in your car in a disabled bay or on double yellow lines displaying your blue badge correctly, and we may approach, and I'm not so much there to cause a problem. I just need to be fair to everyone and just look at your blue badge and look at the date of expiry, the time clock and the hologram. And I can't speak for other colleagues, but I will always enter a conversation with you and see if there's any questions you have or how your day's going, and then move on to the other vehicles. But I typically wouldn't come up to your window and ask to inspect your badge physically, because I can view it through the windscreen. If we were to encounter fake, fraudulent or stolen blue badges, there would be legal consequences, which by all means, after the presentation, you can Google some of the other councils, especially some of the London Borough councils, where it's a big challenge they're facing, but not something currently that's a major day-to-day situation that I've encountered. Moves us through to the civil enforcement officer and our role. A big part of what we do is helping holders and their families understand how the scheme works and trying to offer the best guidance and support if you're ever unsure about the rules. We also work to protect accessible parking spaces, making sure the disabled bays are being used by disabled badge holders so they're available to you, respond to concerns from the community, make sure the scheme stays fair for everyone who generally relies on it. And ultimately, our goal is to support people, not penalise them, and to keep the blue badge scheme working as smoothly as possible. So we generally do try and educate and engage people. We don't instantly move straight to issuing a penalty charge notice to a blue badge holder. We will try to educate and engage and understand the situation. That leads into our community awareness, and this applies to all of us here today and across the wider Cornwall and the wider country. We're all out in the community every day, and we see how much the blue badge scheme means to people who rely on it. Some disabilities are visible, others aren't. So a bit of understanding does make a huge difference. So I think we should all try to reduce stigma, keep public spaces accessible, make sure disabled bays are there for people who genuinely need them. And when the community understand how the scheme works, helps protect vulnerable people and supports like a fairer, more inclusive environment for all of us. It's not a nice topic to talk about, but I do encounter members of the public who have no connection to the Blue Badge scheme, and they do make comments to me about specific vehicles. They'll be like, I saw that gentleman leave his car, there's nothing wrong with him. Those sort of statements, not very nice to hear. The Blue Badge scheme, Donna leads a fantastic team. They issue the blue badges to individuals, and it's not any of us, our job to determine why someone has a blue badge. We should just respect they have a blue badge and try and support them and not make judgments. So how can we support the blue badge community? Well, I think it's important to share accurate information. There will be links at the end of the presentation, and this presentation will be available to all. Encourage correct usage. So try and give people guidance on how they may be unknowingly using it incorrectly. If you encounter what you would consider repeat and serious misuse, there is a link on the Cornwall Council site to report misuse of a blue badge. And finally, to support those who rely on the scheme. So it's being patient, kind and understanding, and like a small amount of awareness goes a long way to making our community more accessible for everyone. This is a slide that shows some really helpful links. So we have the UK government website that has a very thorough breakdown of the blue badge scheme. Unfortunately, you used to receive a physical document, a little very helpful handbook when you received your blue badge, but we've moved to a digital society, so that is not something you'd receive with a new blue badge. But this website does go through the details. Cornwall Council website on how to apply for a blue badge and how to reapply. Blue badge rights and responsibilities. This is from the Cornwall Council point of view. And I must stress that I'd love it if it was simpler, but unfortunately, there are slightly different rules in different authorities. So if you do travel outside Cornwall, you would have to check with the local authorities on, for example, their rules on residential bays, limited weight bays, their car park rules. And the last link there is a link on blue badge parking, and it will go through a number of a greater detail of what we've discussed today, but there's some really useful links. There is more out there. So overall, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone. I know it's a very dry subject. I didn't really throw in any jokes. I kept it very straight on the arrow, and I hope it was really helpful. And after this presentation, when you do go out in your community and you see your local civil enforcement officers, I can assure you 100% that they would greatly want to speak to you and help you and give you advice and support. So please, and it's not just about the blue badge scheme. If you see us in your town or village, any questions you have, where the local toilets are, where the best pasty shop is, helpful places to park, please come to us, and we'll do our utmost to help you and support you, because we are residents of Cornwall also, and we do love this place, and we want to make it a better place for all of us.